Well, honestly, now I am the curse breaker. I am the breaker of this curse that says that divorce is a bad thing, that divorce is like this evil that must be purged. It's not. It's a very neutral circumstance. And it just long term, like a lifelong marriage simply just does not work for, now 50% of people. That's neutral. That doesn't have to mean that like society's going down the toilet, or that people are lazy or have commitment issues. The fact of the matter is that 2 generations ago, women didn't have any other options. That was the truth.
Yeah.
Up to 2 generations ago, marriage was a business transaction, like the strongest business agreement that you could possibly make, where women came out the loser every single time.
Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today we have a special guest, Amanda Harrow. She's an intentional single mom of 4 girls and a burnout and confidence coach for other moms. She teaches women how to liberate themselves off the back burner through her podcast, Fuck It Mothering, and through her coaching packages. Welcome, Amanda. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So please share with us, how did you become a single parent?
So I was married for 9 years, and it ended up being a very one-sided marriage. I was a single mom before I was technically a single mom. And so it just I got to a breaking point, where I couldn't stay in that marriage anymore. It was depleting me and my energy reserves. And ultimately, I realized I was already doing everything myself. So there really wouldn't, the only difference in being like officially a real single mom would be my happiness would increase. So here we are.
Awesome. Were there any things you struggled with when you became a single parent? What were some of the challenges you faced?
I would say the biggest one was I used to be very deep in the Christian church. And so at the time, I really struggled with that morality piece, because when I got married, I did it with the intention of, because I came from a divorced family. And my mom's mom had been divorced. And so I was fed this belief that divorce was this curse, this generational curse that was now in my family. And so I went into my marriage with the intention of like, I'm going to be the curse breaker. And then everything didn't go the way that I envisioned it. And so I was at this crossroads, and I had finally, because for so long, I didn't even recognize that I had a choice, because divorce was like so off the table for me. And so I was in therapy and, talking about how just all the struggles that I had been in for years. And my therapist asked me, like, how long do you think you can keep going? Like, how long do you think that you can do this? And I got really mad at her in the moment. I was like, what the fuck kind of a question is that? Like, I have to do this. And she's like,
during your marriage or after?
Yeah, no, during my marriage. And I got so mad at her. I was like, what kind of a question is that? Like, I have to keep doing it. And she's like, do you though? Or do you do have another choice?
Right.
A choice that you haven't even acknowledged, but you do have another choice. And it was that moment of like, yeah, I do actually. I do have another choice. And so like, anyways, to your question, the morality piece and balancing that out with my, at the time, religion was the hardest piece for me.
Yeah, that can be difficult, because when we grew up with certain frameworks. We think that we must belong and we must adhere to the rules. And sometimes we don't even question if those rules make sense. Not to say something is good or bad, but just question, like, is this true for me? Because we get to kind of define it and we experience it, and if it doesn't feel right, something inside us, we don't agree with it, then we have a power to choose to break free. And I know you wanted to be the curse breaker, but maybe it wasn't in that instance, or it wasn't in that kind of way. You figured out your own way, and it didn't necessarily mean that you had to be the curse breaker.
Well, honestly, now I am the curse breaker. I am the breaker of this curse that says that divorce is a bad thing, that divorce is like this evil that must be purged. It's not. It's a very neutral circumstance. And it just long-term, like a lifelong marriage simply just does not work for, now 50% of people. That's neutral. That doesn't have to mean that like society's going down the toilet, or that people are lazy or have commitment issues. The fact of the matter is that 2 generations ago, women didn't have any other options. That was the truth. Yeah. Up to 2 generations ago, marriage was a business transaction, like the strongest business agreement that you could possibly make, where women came out the loser every single time. So that's really what has happened. We just have actual choices now.
And I think also, 𝐬𝐽𝐳, we believe that we gotta be patient. And now, we, like, kind of in this century, or we don't feel that anymore. Or maybe our patience is shortened, or we realize sooner what is not working, and we're choosing to break free.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had a ton of patience. The last 6 years of my 9-year marriage were hell on earth. And I stayed and I stayed and I stayed and I kept trying and I kept showing up and I kept doing the things. So it wasn't a matter of patience for me. It was truly just realizing this isn't serving me. I'm miserable and I don't have to be miserable. And the experience of divorce doesn't have to be traumatic for my kids. It doesn't have to be this big, horrible thing. It can just be something that happens and that ultimately ends up serving me and serving my kids. Because after I left it not forced him, he didn't have to, but he used it as like the kick in the ass to actually start showing up a little bit instead of not at all.
What helped you in your after the relationship ended? What helped you get back on your feet? Or did you feel actually more empowered because you said it was one-sided anyway when you started, when you were still
It was together? A huge weight off my chest. I remember the first morning that I woke up after he left the house and I felt fantastic. That was my experience. It was like I felt this weight off of me because I was already doing all of the things. So it wasn't like that morning I woke up and like, oh no, now I have to do all the things for the kids by myself. I was already doing all the things for the kids by myself. And while I was doing it, I was resenting him for being asleep in bed while I was handling the morning by myself again and handling the rest of the day by myself again. I just got to do I just got to do my mom gig without like that dark cloud there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
How did your career change as a result of this?
That was a huge change for me. So because I was a stay-at-home mom before, so I went through a couple of different phases, and that was a scary piece too because I had been out of the workforce for like 8 years at that point, and I was 22 when I had my first kid. So I didn't have like a ton of work experience to begin with. I didn't finish college. So that piece was scary, but ultimately I trusted myself. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. 100%. I can trust that I will figure this out. I have to get out of this marriage. So I ended up, my Nana has, or had, she finally retired at like 86. She finally retired, but she had her own accounting business. And when I was a teenager, she had brought me into the business, on summers and taught me basic accounting and bookkeeping skills. So I did have those 3 years of accounting and bookkeeping on my resume. I didn't like accounting, but I was like, when I was a teenager, I was like, this is the most boring shit I've ever had to learn. I was very good at it though. And then, being an adult and being like going through a divorce and having 4 children to support, I was very grateful to have had those skills. So I went back into accounting. And that was an adjustment because my kids were used to me being home with them. And I was used to being home with them. That was a really hard adjustment for all of us. But you make it work.
Cool. Awesome. But how did you land into, being a burnout and confidence coach? How did that came about?
That
From
came
accounting to that.
Yes. Yeah. That came through just my own personal experience, my own journey of working on myself. Because I had gone through a total of about 5 years of therapy, and therapy is so helpful. I'm never here to diss therapy at all, but I did get to a point where I just was plateauing. It wasn't really serving me anymore. And then one day when I was at work, I found a podcast called Unfuck Your Brain. And I loved the name. I was like, ooh, what's this? And it's another life coach, and she teaches feminist thought work principles. And the stuff that she taught on that podcast, it absolutely changed my life. Now, mind you, I was in a season of my life where I had hit like the bottomest part of rock bottom. I was going through a lot in my personal life. This was years after the divorce, but I was at a point where it was perfect for me to like have that information being given to me because I just absorbed it and did it. There was no hesitation. There was no resistance. There was nothing because I was like so broken. And it made such a huge difference in my life. And so once I was able to make these changes in my life and I wasn't as stressed out anymore, I actually felt confident. I actually felt like I loved myself. I was like, this is the key to life. And I would feel really selfish if I kept it to myself because moms are so burnt out. It's such an all-consuming role. And so I was like, I have changed my life, but my sisters are still drowning. I can't let them drown. And I was in a position financially at that point to quit my job and start my business so I could just focus solely on my business. And so I said, fuck it. And I did that.
Cool. Awesome. I love it. So from a podcast, you got inspired from a podcast that kind of started your transformation.
Yes.
Was there any book you read as well that helped inspire your journey to keep on going that you can recommend?
Oh my God, I read so many books. And of course, now that you asked this question, my brain is like completely blanking out. Anything by Brené Brown. And there was, oh my gosh, it's right on the tip. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I loved that book too.
I'm reading that book right now.
Oh, that's a good one. I love that one. Yeah, I love Jen Sincero. Gosh, I feel like there was another one and I can't. Oh, Just Fucking Do It. That's another good one. Cool. I can't remember the author's name, but I don't think there's very many books with that title.
Awesome. What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
A sense of self. Especially since I have 4 girls, I'm very aware of just like how precious my duty is to help them because we're still evolving as far as feminist principles go, as far as like things actually being equal between the sexes. And so I really feel like the most important thing for me to instill in my girls is a sense of self. I want them to trust themselves. I want them to trust themselves more than anything else, always.
Could you share an example of that?
Yeah, like my kids at one point, this was a couple years ago. So my oldest is 13. So, I mean, she was 11. Yeah, around 11. They had this friend. It was like a shared friend because it was someone in the neighborhood. And it got to a point where it was not a good friendship. This other kid was very controlling and they didn't like that. And the way that my girls handled that at such a young age, they just like, they wrote her a letter and they explained like, look, when you do this, it makes us feel this way. And we don't like that. So we're not going to be friends with you anymore. It was just such a very clear cut boundary without being like Regina George, mean girl, like manipulative bullshit. You know, they really weren't being mean girls. They were just saying like, I don't like it when you do this because I don't like being treated that way. And so I can't be your friend anymore. And I was so proud of them. I was so proud of them because women in general are just socialized to be people pleasers. And here my girls are at such young ages, setting a very clear boundary in a very, very healthy way.
Oh, wow. How old were they?
They were around 11, 9, 7, and 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess they modeled it well from you.
Yes. Yes. But I was so proud of them because I didn't have that when I was their age. I was like always terrified of being the black sheep, so to speak, with my friends. Whenever I ran into issues, I was just not a confrontational person. I always avoided confrontation. So I was just very proud of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. What kind of advice can you share with single parents who are just stepping onto the journey of single parenting?
Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust that you are enough. Trust that you're not fucking up your kids. Trust that everything is going to be okay. Every family looks different, and none of them are wrong. Your family isn't wrong either. You're not broken. Your kids aren't broken. Your family is not broken. Everything is okay.
I think that's very important advice because for myself, at least, I was looking for what normal looked like because everywhere I looked, everybody was together and at least on outside, they look happy together.
Right.
There I was this outlier, like single parent, didn't know where to fit in or what normal looked like. And yeah, oftentimes we do feel broken because we have a model of reality, model of the world that we expect to be, and we want to fit in. And then when we don't fit in, we have this identity crisis, like what are we, who we are now, and how do we keep on living? What are we defining as normal again? And I found that there is no one way. We discover our own way.
Yes.
and then we like feel does it feel good? Does it feel all right according to ourselves, not how we fit into the fabric of society? But
yes,
does it ring true to us? And I think, that's a very important thing to keep in mind and we have always the resources to figure things out. We have all the tools that we need. Oftentimes we think that we need to kind of delegate to the therapists or to doctors or to some other places. But yeah, they provide a little bit of support. But in the end of the day, I think it is up to us to figure out our way, figure out what works.
Yes, exactly. Take all the information in and then evaluate. Okay, does this work for me? Does this feel good? Do I like this? Yes, no. If it's no, don't make you wrong. Don't make it that something's wrong with you because this thing that this one person is suggesting, because it's just a suggestion, doesn't work for you. It's okay that it doesn't work for you.
Yeah, totally. Are there any fun projects you're working on that you like to share?
Yes, actually, I just released it's a mini coaching package called Stop Snapping at Your Kids. So it's 4 weeks, 4 audio lessons, and access to me and Voxer for on-the-go coaching because moms are busy and trying to schedule in one more thing into the calendar puts us off from doing things like, I share this example all the time. Like, I went 7 years without going to the dentist because I was like, I don't want to schedule another thing and nothing hurts. So why would I do that? So, that's the existence. That's the reality for moms. And so traditional coaching where you schedule, like you have your set hour every week, it just doesn't really work for most of us. And it's a barrier for women getting the help that they want to have for themselves. And so I'm saying, fuck it to that. It's on the go coaching. You can go into this Voxer app anytime, no matter where you are, no matter what time zone you're in, and get the help that you need. So that's my current offering, and I'm super excited about it.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
No, I think we covered all the bases.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But, to be just for food for thought for anybody who's, currently single, or like you're contemplating divorce and you're worried about being alone is the best because you get to run the show. Like, I get to watch whatever I want on TV. I get to read a book instead of watch TV. I get to eat what I want. I get to run my household the way that I want to. I get to go to bed when I want to without anyone making me feel guilty. Like, being single is actually like the absolute best. Don't be scared to be alone. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's difficult sometimes for people who, let's say they were together for a very long time and they need to fill a hole that they think they have. Or they're so afraid to be with themselves, with their own thoughts. Mm-hmm. That could be kind of difficult to get there. But totally agree with you that you get to make your own rules and you don't have to agree or disagree with anybody. You just do you.
Yes, it's amazing. And that void, you fill it with yourself. And it feels so much better than allowing someone else outside of you to fill it.
Totally. I think when we we expect other people to please us or other people to make us happy, we forget that we have that inside of us. And anytime we place external expectations, we'll be disappointed because nobody can read our mind. They can never satisfy us. It's up to us to satisfy. And if somebody else comes along, it's like a cherry on top. You already had a whole of you.
Yes.
Filled and everything. And then if somebody comes, they just an addition, a bonus instead of a replacement or a void filler or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No one can actually make us feel anything. It's only ever our thoughts that are creating the feelings. So like when you're partnered, and you're feeling love for your partner, it's your thoughts about your partner that are creating the feeling of love. He's not creating it. Mm-hmm. And then if he doesn't take the trash out, then you get pissed and irritable, and then you don't feel love anymore because of your thoughts about all of the things.
Yeah. And we also have kind of our own imagination. We imagine what that person is versus what that person is in real life. So we have these two people, the one we imagined and the other one that's in front of us.
Yes, the one that we always wish that they would become, and the one that they actually are.
And then we get disappointed when the picture in the head does not match with reality in front.
Yes, exactly. But to put your happiness on someone else, that's a huge responsibility. It's a huge burden, and that was never their purpose. Yeah. It's your job and your responsibility to make your own happiness.
Totally agree with that. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom and your story. And I love what you're doing, how you're helping other moms. And this way of coaching, I think, it sounds amazing that they don't have to schedule in. They can just fit it into their life. And you
could be at the grocery store.
You anytime, they have a free minute.
Yep, exactly. Just fit it in wherever you can fit it in.
Awesome. If people would like to connect with you, learn more about you, where would they go?
The best place is Instagram, YouTube, or my podcast.
Cool. Yeah. And what is the name of your podcast?
Fuck It Mothering.
Awesome. All right. We'll include everything in episode notes. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Parent Success Stories. Today we have a special guest, Amanda Harrow. She is an international single mom. Sorry.
It's okay.
International.